Hi, this is Dr. Tom Gerard, and we're in the middle of Principles of Marketing, and we're on the second of the 4Ps of marketing, which is pricing. And this is a video I did for a Zoom class that I had, so please enjoy it. Okay. So we just the 4Ps of marketing, right? Product, next is price. So we did 3 chapters on product. This chapter's on price. Okay. So now the interesting thing about, well, first of all, you'll see that the way that this is laid out is objectives for the course, which typically, if I know the way that your quizzes were set up originally by another instructor, they should have followed these objectives. 4 pricing orientations, the relationship between price and quantity, price elasticity, the break-even point, how to calculate a product's break-even point, and the 4 types of competitive levels. The difference between everyday low price and a high-low pricing, describing the pricing strategies of introducing a new product, and illegal or unethical. A lot of information. I don't know if we'll get through all of this today because I don't want to, I don't want this to be an hour and a half thing, but we'll do what we can. Anyway, one of the things that you'll see in this course, I don't know how many of you, if you've taken your economics, or you're taking your accounting too, which is managerial accounting. But some of these concepts that's covered in this course are price elasticity, relationship for price and quantity sold. Those are part of economics course. The break-even point is part of the managerial accounting class. So, and you'll see that a lot of this is covered in this chapter. If you have had your economics or you've had your management accounting, you'll be familiar with those things. If you have not had those courses, this is going to be a really quick introduction because you'll get, again, they're very complicated and full-blown topics that they cover in 2 or 3 slides in this. So don't, if you don't understand it or don't get it, don't freak out because you'll cover that more, like I said, in other courses. So the first thing they start off with is the 5 C's of pricing. Now, and in the middle, you'll see, I don't know, it's a big C, but with this value, right? We create value with our customer because, as we said many weeks ago, we're in the value creation era of marketing. And so these are the 5 C's: competition, costs, company objective, customers, channel members. This one is number 1, the company objectives. We've talked about this. Again, you hear me talk about this a lot. What is the company's objectives? What are the mission statement of the company? And this is important. That the reason I keep coming back to that, because in business, if you're running a business or you have a business, you always want to have your mission statement and what it is that your overall purpose of being in business, other than just making money. Because if you're in business just to make money, yeah, you might be able to make money, but you really want to be in business to do something that you're passionate about, something that you believe in. And if I'm passionate about something and I believe something, then believe in something, then I have an objective, right? I have a mission. It may not be written down, which I encourage you to do, but you would have an objective. Why am I doing this? Now, that translates through all of the things that we do, the types of products that we offer, our target customer, all of the things that we talk about in this class and other courses goes directly back to our company objectives and our mission statement. So including pricing. So these are different pricing structures that they're showing here. Profit orientated, policy. Now these all have meaning. In other words, when it just says profit, of course everybody wants to make a profit. If you don't make a profit, you're not going to be in business very long unless you're just wealthy. In fact, did we show the video? I don't know if we showed the one about Amazon. I think we did at one time, and the grocery store, and it gave the example of how Amazon can buy Whole Foods and be in the grocery business and never make a penny because they're making billions of dollars on their cloud storage and other services that they offer. So they're profit orientated as a company in a whole. They may not be profit orientated for their grocery store division because they're making so stinking much money on the other stuff, right? So, but in general, if you're in business, you need to make a profit. It may not be your overall objective. Maybe you're Paul Newman, like we talked about the salad dressing, and he just wants to give back to charities and stuff. But again, he couldn't do that unless he was Paul Newman. He was a multimillionaire, because he was a movie star. So ordinary people going into business have to make a profit at some point. But what this is talking about is what is our goal, our company objective. We have a profit objective, right? What is our profit objective? And this, they just use an example. And we'll see later on in this particular chapter even that different types of organizations have different profit margins. So this says our objective would be to have an 18% profit margin, right? To reach a goal for our firm. Now, again, 18 is just arbitrary. If you're a grocery store and you make 10%, you're doing good. Probably more like 5 to 7% in grocery. If you're in a retail environment where you're selling a retail store, you might be 40% profit margin, right? So that is all dependent upon what your part you're in the value chain and what type of business. But anyway, they're just saying, what is our profit goal, right? Our sales goal, set prices very low to generate new sales, take away from competitors even if profits suffer. Sales, competitor, to discourage more competitors from entering. Now these are all, talking about low pricing. Sales oriented. This is again going back to the grocery store. Maybe I only need to make 5% margins because I'm trying to sell bananas and as fast as I possibly can, right? Like Walmart and Aldi's and these kind of places. Competitor, Walmart definitely, right? Discourage competitors from entering the marketplace. We sell everything so low. Who's going to be able to come in and compete with us? This is Sam's Club, Costco. Customer orientated. Now this is a little different because now I'm targeting, and again, we talk a lot about this in marketing. We target a specific customer at a specific thing. So I'm selling Ferraris or Lamborghinis or Maseratis, or maybe, I don't know, any other vehicle that sells for hundreds of thousands, if not $1 million. You have a particular product and you have a particular customer that you're aiming at, and that customer, there are customers that obviously, like we've talked about before, money is very relative. So to what we might think of, if I'm going to spend, say, $100,000 on a vehicle, that might be a lot of money for an ordinary person. But for some people, $100,000 vehicle is just really, that's just like a run-of-the-mill type vehicle. They might spend, on a Bentley or something that they have custom made $1 million. So in this case, our objective is not necessarily looking at a specific profit margin, because just think, if I got 1 or 10, let's say 1 or 3% profit margins on a Bentley that sells for $2 million, then I don't know what they sell for, but you know what I mean. Then that's a lot of money. Okay, 18% of a head of lettuce, might be 18 cents. But yet in a head of lettuce, we might only make 5 cents on each head because we're a 5% margin, but we're selling a lot of them. But this is really our objective. Are we reaching a specific customer that has the money to spend large dollars like Rolexes or something like that? These two in the middle are more your low price. Okay, let's continue. Profit orientation. Okay, here we go. This is talking about the different ones, right? Target price, maximize profits, target profit. Okay, let's continue. We talked about that. Let's go on. And this continues to say, now this talks about a mathematical model when we're talking about maximizing profits. And let's go target profit per unit. This is where we get into our accounting target. I want to get here. Sales orientation. Okay, now remember, we're back up here. Company objectives, profit, sales, competitor oriented under objectives. So we talked about profit. This is sales. More concerned with market share. A lot of companies judge themselves by the market share. Now think about right now. Again, you'll hear I talk about this a lot. Talk about the cruise ship industry. The cruise ships are all shut down right now. Well, they're not making any revenue. Their profits right now are zero. And they're negative. Obviously, they're in lost territory because they got huge expenditures. But the idea where I'm going with this is that Carnival Cruise Line, because they have the majority of the ships that are out there, the company Carnival still maintains the market share, right? And so you might be a company that's not the profit leader. In other words, you're not making the most money. You might make a lot less than your competitors, but you maintain the market share, right? We have more sales and revenue than our competitors, even if we're less profitable. And there is a strategy with that. The strategy with that, of course, is that as our market share grows, over time, it's more of a long-term approach. Think about the one that, again, going back to my food examples, Frito-Lay controls the salty snack market, right? There is no other potato chip or chip line that can even come close to Frito-Lay. But in fact, because they've bought most of the other competitors out over the years, over many years. But it didn't always used to be that way. There were many potato chip companies, when I was a kid 100 years ago, that was in great competition with Frito-Lay. And actually, Frito and Lay's were two different companies at one time. So, okay, competitor orientation. Now, this is, again, we're talking about setting our prices. Let's talk about status quo. That means that I'm going to price my products like my competitor, and as my competitor changes their prices, I change my price. So this you've seen probably in stores that say, well, we do price matching. If you find the price somewhere else cheaper, we'll match that price. But maybe I'm not even telling the customer that. I have spies, which many companies do. In fact, maybe you've gotten a job doing that. If not, there's a good app that tells you about that if you want to make some extra money. And I think it's called Field Agent app. You download the app, you put in your demographic. Here I'm telling you how to earn some extra money when we're not quarantined. But you download the app, and basically you put your demographic. And my demographic was obviously very different from yours. But then, it'll bring up things in your area. You put in your address and everything that says, well, if you want to check prices at Home Depot or Lowe's or Best Buy or Walmart, you're basically checking prices for them, and they're paying you. And it's like, I don't know, $5 or $6 or something that you get to go to. You go into Best Buy or more like Walmart, Home Depot, Lowe's, that kind of thing, and check prices. It'll say, what is the price of a gallon of paint of this brand or something? And basically what you're doing is you're reporting back. They're paying you $5, $6 to go over to Lowe's and check the pricing for them. And they're watching the prices of their competitors, right? So let me see here. Competitive parity, set similar. So your competitive parity means the same. We're kind of setting our prices, but the status quo is more if I'm changing my prices according to my. Now, value is not always part of this because you're just following what your competitors are doing. Custom orientation, talked quite a bit about that already. And then progress. What are the 5 C's? Well, that's the big C. channel members. We haven't got to channel members yet. All right. So now here again, this is our price elasticity. This is under customers on our the 5 C's. This is from your economics class. That in theory, as demand increases, so demand down at the bottom, as demand increases, the prices go up. On the inverse side, as we raise our price, the demand goes down, right? So we're always, as a business, on all of our products. Now think about this: when we talk about something like Frito-Lay or Procter & Gamble or the Unilever that has like literally thousands of products, you're doing this on every product. What is my competitor doing? And how much can I go up on my price without sacrificing demand? And that's really called your demand curve. You'll learn a lot about that in economics. So in theory, though, in general, the general idea is as my price goes up, the demand goes down. Think about if I'm selling cars, and cars are, my average used car is $10,000. If my average, in fact, I think, now I'm talking about this, South Point, I think it's South Point Honda, way down on Memorial, the Honda dealer. I noticed one time I was going with my son-in-law to look for a car, and they had their used car lot, and they're such a great big giant dealer, and they have different lots. And this lot is used cars in the $20,000 to $25,000 range, and they have a whole bunch of cars there. And then you go to another lot, which is just, I mean, still on the same property, but a different area. And now these cars are, 15 to 20, and then you got another one that's 10 to 15. And so they know that each lot, you might sell more cars at 10 to 15, and you're going to sell a little bit less from 15 to 20, and then you're going to sell a little bit less from 20 to 25,000. And so you'll know the idea with this curve is as the price goes up, the demand, which means the less you're going to sell, right? So you might be, that's why most car dealers in the car dealer business, most car dealers keep those cheapo cars. I call them cheaper cars. I don't know. They're not bad cars necessarily. They're just the ones they don't put out on the lot. You just go into a car lot and I've only got $5,000 to spend, and every car there is $10,000. You go, man, don't you have anything for $5,000? I guarantee you they do. Now it might be a purple, and no offense if you drive this, but it may be the purple PD Cruiser, because we used to joke every car dealer has a purple PD Cruiser in the back that they will sell you for cheap. And maybe, now that used to be the car. Maybe it's something different now. Anyway, the Chevy AVO or something. Okay, demand curves and pricing that we just talked about. Now, this is one interesting one here. Now, you'll see this is this is the standard curve that we typically always follow. One thing to keep in mind is when we were talking about the Ferraris and the Rolexes and the Louis Vuittons and those kinds of things, we notice here that this is a different kind of a curve, and this is talking about prestigious products. Those are those high-end things like I was just talking about. Your very expensive items that only certain people can afford, and you'll notice that this is a different kind of a demand. In fact, the part of what this is talking about, to just explain this, the demand increases as the price goes up, right? So there's a status symbol. We talked about the movie star and the girl only being able to pick to carry the purse that was whatever it was, $250,000 or $400,000 purse at the Oscars. Every movie star girl wants to carry that purse, and so the price goes way, way up because all the movie star girls want to carry that purse, and maybe there's some guys that want to carry it too. But nevertheless, you get the picture. The demand is going up even though the price is going up. The Koenigsegg, I think it's pronounced, is the fastest car made, and it's like their new one that supposedly is going to go 300 miles per hour, and that car is in the multi-millions. And There's just the status of someone that's rich enough that I'm going to spend whatever the cost of that vehicle is because I want to be able to drive the fastest car that's ever been produced. And so, and you think about that. Even this is, I'm talking about real expensive things, but this could be, think about even in the normal person's world, there are those things that people will pay more just to have it. And think about, and I think we'll come back to this in a minute, but think about the video game. When the video game comes out, in fact, I think that's one of the ideas that they stress in this chapter later on, is something that people pay for when they pay because they don't mind paying extra money when the new video game comes out. But later on, that same video game, 6 months or a year or 2 years down the road is a lot cheaper. But they want to be the first one to have it, so they're willing to pay the extra money. So demand curves, you'll spend a lot of time in economics on that. Now this is price elasticity. Again, economics concept is that how sensitive to price changes is the product. So in theory, this is the way all products move, that one or this one on those curves. But how sensitive are they? And so here we're talking about two different ones. They're elastic or they're inelastic. Inelastic means they're insensitive. In other words, think about gasoline. We're all enjoying low prices on gasoline right now. But if you can remember when gasoline went up $2, $3, even $4 a gallon, people still have to buy gas and get to work or school or wherever you're driving. And so the demand may go down a little bit as gasoline race goes up, but people in general, you have to buy gasoline. So it doesn't matter. I mean, maybe I thought, gosh, right now, what was $1.30 something a gallon? I should be getting jugs and filling them up or something, right? But the idea is that like milk, I wrote here, milk or bread or things of these what we call ordinary items that we buy all the time anyway. As think about now, I know Denali, you've got a baby, right? So when diapers, you need diapers. You're going to look maybe for a good deal, but when the price goes up, you don't really have a choice, right? You're less sensitive, meaning inelastic. I'm not going to change. I still have to buy diapers, so I'm not going to buy diapers if all the diapers go up in price, right? Just like gasoline. Elastic is more sensitive. So here I got like the steak dinner, maybe you get laid off from your job because of the COVID-19 and you are out of work. You might still have to buy diapers for your baby, but you're not going to go out maybe to buy a steak dinner somewhere, or you're not going to go to the grocery store and buy T-bone or whatever, the New York steak, because now you're on a tighter budget. Maybe you're going to buy hamburger or round steak or something like that, right? So something like this, luxury items are more sensitive. And that's why, again, maybe those car lots I was talking about earlier, when people are laid off or they're not selling as many cars, they might be moving the cars around on the lot to change the pricing structure. So that's just what this means here. Does it change? Does my buying habits change if the price goes up or down? Inelastic, gasoline, diapers, milk, those kinds of things? No. Steak dinners, yes. I'm not buying the steak if I'm out of work, right? Maybe. Some people don't pay attention. Okay, so this is just a formula you'll get in your economics more. Okay, factors influencing price elasticity. Again, here's substitution effect. So the substitution is there things out there that I can substitute? In other words, if I buy Huggies, and I don't know, I'm not picking on anybody that has a baby, but that's, if you've had a baby, right? Especially if you're on a limited income. You know that if you buy Huggies or Pampers, and all of a sudden Huggies and Pampers go up to, well, they're already real expensive, I know. If they go up in price on the brands, what if I could buy the Best Choice brand or Smart Value or whatever the store brand is, and there's a substitute, that's going to affect this, right? I'm going to say, well, under my income, this says income, my income changes because now I lost my job. I'm going to substitute the store brand for the Huggies brand, right? Or something of that nature. So income can go the other way, right? So let's say I get a job, I get a big bonus, or I get a new job, making a lot more money. I got a big promotion, and I was driving that car that I bought, the PD Cruiser, and I only paid $3,000 for it. And now I've got a big raise. I'm going to go over to the good lot, you know, the $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 car lot. So the income of it has an effect, right? If my income goes up, I'm going to buy more expensive things. I can afford to. My demand goes up. If my income goes down, can I substitute the non-brand? Can I go buy the cheaper car? One of the things that happens is, you know, and this happens, you know, most of you you're young, you haven't had a lot of life out there, but things happen in life that you have no control over. Just like this whole virus thing. It doesn't matter if you're Warren Buffett and you're the most genius stock picker in the world. Things like this happen that you have no control over. And if you're an ordinary person and you've got a good job and all of a sudden that good job is gone, maybe you work in the oil fields here in Oklahoma or at the oil company, and now oil is selling for $25 a barrel and you're laid off, and you were making lots of money because you were working for you know, Phillips or somebody. You were making lots of money and you went out and bought that four-wheel drive diesel dually pickup that you paid $70,000 for, but now you got a problem because you got $1,000 a month payment on a pickup and you got no more jobs. So you better be selling the pickup and going and finding a cheaper one. Okay, so that cross elasticity is as one price goes up. For these are competitive. Cross price means two things go together. I've got shampoo and conditioner. I've got you know, certain things go together. The one that they use an example, I think, is the girl with the, and these are all the definitions of what we're talking about. Here's Pete with the Old Spice deodorant, and he's going to get a cheaper brand. But there's one where the cross price elasticity is the percentage change in product A and product B. Now, they could be up and down. Don't think that when one goes up, they both go up. It could be the opposite. One goes up, the other one goes down. If I pay more, and this is the example, buys a printer on sale for a great price, but finds out that the cartridges cost more than the printer. I mean, have you been there? If not, that's, again, one of the things when you're buying a computer printer. The ink cartridges, depending, you might spend more for the printer, but the cartridges are cheaper. So they go together. I got to have print cartridges or laser even toner for my printer. Do I buy the more expensive printer, but the ink cartridges are cheaper? Or do I buy the cheap printer and the cartridges are really expensive? Some of them are so cheap that you just throw the thing in the trash and get a whole new printer, right? Okay. This chapter's got way too much stuff in it to cover in one day. So now we're talking about accounting. And this concepts of cost, variable cost, fixed cost, total cost, you will encounter. So we just covered a bunch of stuff you cover in your economics class. This section is management accounting. And of course, I don't teach economics, but I do have taught management accounting for a long time. And accountants, by the way, and economists think very differently, because economists love all those curves and charts and graphs and things like that. An accountant, and it's very gray. It's very gray area, I guess I should say. Where in accounting, everything is cut and dry. I can put a dollar amount on something, and I can, you know, it's very black and white. So one of the things that you counter in your management accounting, and again, this seems like simple concepts really that most people can grasp, so it's not that complicated, but you have a variable cost, which is the cost that vary with the value, the product. So think about if I'm going to build a radio for a car. The cost of the number of cars that I build, they all have a radio in them. The total cost of the radio doesn't change. The radio is say it's $100 that we're $100 radio we're putting in the cars we're manufacturing. The cost of each radio does not change, but the amount of radios depends on how many cars I make. So the variable costs are the costs that vary with production. So and it says production value, but think about if I build 100 cars, I've got 100 radios at $100 each. If I build one car, I only have one radio. And so my variable cost is how many radios, right? Is it $1,000 or is it $10,000 or is it $100? And that all depends on the production amount, right? So that's variable cost. This might be, I'm trying to think, in the old days when cell phones, it used to be, well, first of all, in the old days when you didn't have a cell phone, if you called long distance, it was more money, right? You could call local for free, but if you called to California or something, you paid extra. And then when cell phones came out, they would charge you for how many texts you sent, right? Or your data. And that's variable, right? Now it's pretty much something that's included, right? Fixed cost is the same. So think about your rent at your apartment or your house. It doesn't really change depending on how many hours you're sleeping there, right? It doesn't change if you have 20 people living in your house or you have one person living in the house. The rent is the same, fixed costs. So in accounting, we talk about fixed cost. What are our monthly costs? Well, our fixed costs are the same. My rent's the same, but maybe my variable cost, maybe the electricity or water or gas, some of those things are variable because it depends on how much I'm using them, right? Even though most of the utilities have a fixed cost and a variable cost, they call that a mixed cost. But in general, we know if we use more of something during the month, this could be how many pay-per-view movies you watch, right? If I watch one, how much did you spend last month on pay-per-view movies? Well, I'm at home all day because I'm quarantined. I watched a lot of them this month, but in other months I'm out working and I don't have time to watch them. So that's a variable cost. My cost of my cable might be the same every month. It might be fixed. Okay, so what this is, the total cost is the sum of the two. And what are we going to do? So we're going to talk about break-even analysis, but this is really a lot of accounting information that you learn in a different class. It's really more important to know that than this course, except for when we're talking about setting pricing in your business. You have to be able to break even. So this is about breaking even. Now this is again a chart, and really what you see is down here is our fixed costs. So think about your own personal expenses. Well, maybe I got a car payment and I got my rent, and every month I pay X amount of dollars for my car payment and X amount of dollars for my rent, and those are fixed every month, right? And then I got my variable costs. My variable costs might be my groceries or my entertainment, because whether or not I go to the movies or I don't, those are variable costs. If we're talking about a product, we're talking about maybe the fixed cost is the rent on the factory building where we're building the product, right? Our machinery, things that I have, I borrowed to buy a multi-million-dollar machine that makes widgets. It might be the payment on that machine might be fixed, because I've got to pay for that machine whether or not I produce one widget or I produce a million widgets, right? So basically what they're showing here is and now here's our revenue. They call it revenue. This could be for an overall firm, but there would be for a particular product, this would be sales. How many of those am I selling? And that's a variable depending on how many you sell. But at some point we cross this line, or there's a point there that it becomes the break-even point. This is the point where my variable and fixed costs, my total costs, equal my revenue, okay? My sales. And when I go through this in my management accounting, I do it much differently than what they've done on here, because charts, if you don't understand all of this writing on this chart, that can be confusing. There's really a simple formula. Oh, my internet connection is saying it's unstable. Okay, so fixed cost divided, now we got a contribution margin, which is stupid because here they don't even tell you how you calculate the contribution margin. So this is a marketing course, not accounting, and that frustrates me because they're telling you break even is fixed cost divided by the contribution margin, but they didn't tell you how you calculate the contribution margin, did they? Well, the contribution margin is your revenue minus your variable costs, right? And I'd love to teach you that, but that would take me a whole night to teach you this concept here. It's a great concept. It's the concept that the people on, and they call this cost volume profit analysis in accounting. And this is the concept that the people on Shark Tank use to determine whether or not they're going to make money on a product. When somebody walks in 10 minutes and pitches their idea to the Shark Tank people, they're sitting there with their little notepad and they're figuring this out. They want to know what's the break-in. And what do? They ask you, how many of them are you selling and how much does it cost you for each one to sell? That's my variable cost, right? If I'm selling a widget and I sell the widget for $10 and I spend $5 for materials for every widget that I make, then you say, well, my contribution margin is $5. But I have to use that $5, right? My sale price is $10. My variable cost is $5. Now I have $5 contribution margin. That's what that is. And I have to pay my fixed costs, right? So what are my fixed costs? My rent, maybe my salaries. And you notice that they always ask you that on Shark Tank. Do you pay yourself a salary? Because if you don't, you're not going to be in business very long unless you're just Paul Newman and you're rich and you just want to make salad dressing for fun. I don't know. But the ordinary person's not. If I'm a shark person, I'm not going to invest in your company because you're not working for free for very long. Okay, that has to be a fixed cost. How much do you pay yourself? Okay, so that's a whole new study, right? Just know here that the idea is when we're talking about a product and pricing, we have to be able to make a profit. How many of those products do I need to sell? The question is, how many units do I need to sell before I make any profit? Because you have to hit your break-even point, and then every time you make another one after that is profit. Okay, and what is your profit for each unit? Contribution margin. Okay, and that's another whole thing. So competition, now this is crazy because now we're back here to economics. Monopoly, oligopoly, monolistic competition, and pure competition. These are all economics. And it's divided by less price competition. In other words, if you're a monopoly, you control the market. Think about your, again, oil again, but let's just think about your electricity on your house or your water. You don't just say, oh, well, PSO went up this month. I'm just going, well, I'm going to fire them. I'm going to go get another firm. You don't, right? You're controlled by them. You have no choice but to use the electric company that's hooked up to your house. Let me look at my notes. Oligopoly is a handful of companies. This is like I was talking about Frito-Lay, but the other one that's good to think about here is our soda, right? We got Coke, we got Pepsi, and then we got the 7-Up group. 7-Up has Dr. Pepper and A&W root beer. So you have your Coca-Cola, your Pepsi, and 7-Up. And those three companies control the soda pop market, right? RC also owned by 7-Up. A handful of firms control the market, just a few. Monopoly might only be one, like electricity, right? Many firms selling monopolistic competition, many firms sell in differentiated products at different prices. So monolistic, many firms, different products. This could be things like you've got we talked about Unilever, Colgate-Palmolive, and Procter & Gamble. Within, and the reason I use those, even though there are three big companies, within those companies, they sell, if you look at Procter & Gamble's shampoo, next time you wash your hair or shave or do anything in your personal hygiene or wash your clothes, look at on the back, it might be in small print, Procter & Gamble, Tide, you know, but they have within their market many products. So if I go buy a Procter & Gamble shampoo, I might be buying, I don't know what all they own, but Pantene or Dove or Suave or whatever, the different shampoos, all made by the same company, but different shampoos, different price points, different brands, all owned by Procter & Gamble. And Unilever also has many different shampoos, even though they're all owned by that company. And Colgate-Palmolive is the other one that's in that group. But each, competing firms selling many different products. Now, pure competition, many firms selling commodities for the same price. Same price. So this is commodity. Again, thinking of gasoline, we got now in Oklahoma, in Tulsa area, you don't have that much choice for gasoline. You buy Quick Trip, right? You might buy Walmart or if at some other companies like Walmart that has a gas station. But in general, if you were to go to a different state where there's more competition in fuel, in California, you got Chevron, you got Union 76, you've got Arco. Arco is the Atlantic Richfield. They're like the Quick Trip of California. AMPMs, they have their convenience stores, but it's Arco gasoline. And then you have, like I said, Chevron, ExxonMobil, Union 76, used to be Texaco. Texaco is with Phillips, I think now. But you have many firms, but gasoline, the commodity price, the barrel of oil price is the same. And so you might have many different firms that's selling gas at all the same price. And where do you shop? If pretend like here we had a Quick Trip on one corner, and in Oklahoma City you got OnQ. Let's say there was an OnQ right across the street from Quick Trip, and I'd say AMPM. If any of you have been to the West Coast, you know AMPM is over on this corner, and they're all selling gas for $1.50 a gallon or whatever it is, right? Or $2 a gallon or $4. Doesn't really matter what the price is. They're all selling gas. They're all competing firms, but they're selling them at the same price. That's pure competition here. So you're purchasing at one of those places for some specific reason. And so that's kind of this whole idea. Again, economics concepts. Okay. We got a lot of stuff here. Channel members. The price structure, and we're talking about price structure in this. Channel members are the people in the marketing chain that we've talked quite a bit about. Manufacturers, wholesalers, retailers. It's made by a manufacturer. So here they talk about in your book, they talk about the drill. DeWalt is the manufacturer. They make the drills, and they might sell to a wholesaler, and then the wholesaler sells to the retailer. And each of these, now here they've got Ace Co-op and Ace Retailer. The retailers have got to have a lot more profit margin because these are the people that have to pay rent. They have to pay, now they all have employees obviously, but the retailer has, like I said, advertising, rent, a lot of different costs that it costs to put something in a store on a shelf compared to the wholesaler. Now the wholesaler, and we've talked about wholesalers in the past. Maybe I'm selling DeWalt drills, but I'm selling, another brand of some other product that I'm selling to Ace. And maybe I'm selling barbecues, and I'm selling drills, and I'm selling paint, different brands of paint. And I might be a wholesaler, but I'm selling from different manufacturers to the retailer. And I don't have a brick and mortar store. I might have a warehouse, but my profit margin needs to be a lot less, because I call in on a lot of different retailers, and I'm calling with a lot of different manufacturers' products. Where the manufacturer, DeWalt, they're a little bit more than the wholesaler. They have the cost of manufacturing, and they may make different products, but they're selling to many wholesalers, and they may be selling directly to retailers. So we have to make a little bit of, this is talking about our profits, right? My profit here is more than the wholesaler, but it's less than the retailer, right? I have many customers, because I have customers that are wholesalers, and I have customers that I sell direct to retailer. If I'm selling to Home Depot or Lowe's, you can bet I'm selling directly to them. But if I'm selling to, all the little independent hardware stores, I might go through a wholesaler, right? Okay. This is just talking that my profit margins are my needs of how much profit do I need to make margin wise are different depending on whether I'm a manufacturer, wholesaler, or retailer. That's what that's all about, right? So pricing strategies, everyday low price, that's your Walmart ad, right? Everyday low prices. And then you have the high-low pricing. So to contrast, the idea with Walmart is they want you to have the concept in your mind that they're always going to be cheaper, right? Dollar General, Dollar Tree. I go there because I know their prices in general are cheaper overall, right? Now, not every item, but everyday low pricing. High-low pricing is what you're going to see more at your Reesers or your JCPenney's kind of a store, where this week it's on sale, but next week it's not, right? So if you're selling shirts, and your everyday low price shirt might be $14.99. If I'm a seller, and I don't know what that would be, Kohl's, or I don't know who that is. What's the discount stores that sell clothes, right? But they keep the prices. Say I got a $15 shirt, where at JCPenney's this week that shirt is $25. Next week it's $20, and another week it's $15. And I know that because I shop at JCPenney's. They're all the same shirt. They change the price every week. And the same way with Reesers. You'll notice that their groceries, they have a general price structure that they have for their products, but they'll run the ads. So and we talked about this, I think, in one. Girl Scouts are selling cookies out front. Guess what's the cheapest thing in Reesers? Keep cookies. Nabisco and Keebler cookies are cheap. Always check that out, by the way. Anytime there's a little girl selling a $5 box of cookies out front that everybody wants to buy, guess what? Inside the store, the Keebler and Nabisco is the cheapest, because they're competing with cute little girls trying to sell you something, right? Who can compete with that? But anyway, the idea is the price on watch it sometime. If there's some, and most of you, if you've bought stuff that you buy all the time, you'll know that cookies is a good example. Of course, I'm familiar with the snack food, but you watch the price of Oreos, and the Oreos will range anywhere from $1.99 or $1.75 even, all the way up to $3.50, which is a big range for a $2 item. They go up and down depending on what's on sale. Frito-Lay the same way. The chips. Super Bowl, cheap. Other weeks, more money. Okay, everyday pricing, and then okay, that's more about that. A reference price is the right price I have in my head. Now, many of you are not, and like I said, I'm the accounting person, and I think in numbers all the time. So every time I go anywhere, and my family gets frustrated with me, because everywhere I go, I have a reference price in my head, and because I know that if this is something, think about the one like we were talking about. If you're buying Huggies or Pampers, which I don't anymore, but I did for many years. You have a reference price. How much money am I going to pay for diapers? Well, if I don't have any, and we're under quarantine, and I got to get them for the baby, then price doesn't really matter as much. But if we're not under quarantine and I can go buy them at Sam's Club or Costco or Target or Walmart or Reese's, and I know what Huggies costs, and those are the brand I might buy, and I'm just using that as an example, I have a reference price in my head. This is what I normally pay. And so when I go to Walmart and they have them on sale for a lot cheaper, oh, it's cheaper than my reference price. Now's a good time if I have the extra money to stock up on them. Or I'm going to go to Sam's Club, right? And I can buy them cheaper if that's something I know that I always buy. And even Sam's Clubs put stuff on sale. Okay, so but in my mind, I have a reference price. Everybody has a reference price, especially for the things think about that you purchase all the time, right? It's just like I just said a little bit ago, a gasoline $1.35 a gallon. Oh, I want to go and buy jugs to fill up gas, right? Because I know it's not going to be that way for very long. Okay, my reference price on gasoline is way more than $1.35 a gallon, right? But think about milk. I noticed that milk is another one. When the dates get shorter, if they've got a whole bunch of milk on short dates, they'll lower the price. So if I'm used to paying $3.25 or $3.50 for a gallon of milk and I see it for $1.99, the first thing I need to do is check the date. Maybe it's tomorrow. Well, maybe if I drink a gallon of milk a day, that's a good deal. But if I'm going to buy $1.99, but I only have 3 days to drink it and I don't normally do that, now if you have a bunch of kids and you're feeding them cereal, buy it at $1.99, right? But you got a reference point. That's what that's all about. Okay. New prices. Penetration is one we talked about with the video games. Market penetration pricing. That means when I come out with a new product, it's really low. And then as it gets in the market, what you're doing, I come out with a new product, I price it so low that nobody else can get into the market. Market penetration. I want to capture the market. I'm going to come into a market with a new item, a new price, and it's going to be so low that no competitor is even going to be thinking about trying to get into the market. They're going to say, well, they're selling it so low that there's no sense in even trying to compete with them because we can't compete. So, but then what happens is you control the market. Once you get that market share, then you can go up on your price, right? Because now you're the leader in the market. And this is maybe a longer term strategy. Price skimming, this is where you start out high and you lower it. This might be your phones, right? I got a new phone coming out, the latest, greatest phone. I come out, it's really high, but later on it drops as the price. This is the video game, right? The video game comes out at Christmas time, or the console, it's, $60 for the new game, but 6 months or a year later, I can buy the game for $30 to $35 maybe, half price. But this is because in the beginning, everybody wants it. And so I'm going to, now, there are companies like video game companies that would limit. I don't know if you remember, but whenever they come out with a new console, like the new Xbox or PlayStation or Nintendo, every store only has 3, right? Well, if every store, you'll see an ad, especially Black Friday, you'll see an ad at Walmart or somewhere that says, oh, this new console is only $199, and everywhere else it's $299, and then you race down there and it says, oh, well, that was sold 5 seconds before you got there because we only had 2 of them. Anyway, that's price skimming. Something comes out high and then they go, okay, where are we going? Now, the next thing and the last thing I want to talk about is illegal. I know I tried to go really fast because I wanted to get through this chapter. Lots of material here. You could spend a whole class studying each one of these things. Like I said, accounting, you'll spend multiple weeks on cost, volume, profit, economics, all that, elasticity, and all that business. You're going to study. Marketing, it's really not a marketing thing, but need to know in this one chapter on pricing. So this is legal, illegal aspects and ethical pricing. A lot of this stuff, there's laws, and I won't get into it. Your book talks a lot about the different laws. You might have questions on it, so reference your book. But a lot of the problem with this is it's hard to prove. So deceptive reference price. This is where you have something and see the big sign, half price. Well, what if the price is you're talking? Let's go back to my Oreos example. If Oreos normally, let's say the average price is $3, and the company has a big sign that says half price, and you go in and it's $2 and well, I mean, I can't do my math, but let's just say it's $2.50 and it says half price, and you think, well, it's normally only $3. So how is $2.50 half price? Well, it's because they got it marked up to $5, right? So the Oreo price is $5, and they're advertising it at half price, but yet it's still only $2.50. Right? But you can go anywhere else in town and buy it for $3. So it's really not half price. That's deceptive reference price. My reference price is $5 instead of $3, and so I advertise it as half price. That's a lot of these are illegal, and they'll talk about the different acts throughout history that's been passed on these things. But how do you prove that, right? Loss leader pricing. This is selling below cost. Very illegal, but done all the time, especially by companies like Walmart. Walmart was sued when they first, well, not when they first came out, but as they grow and open up new stores in new areas, one of their common practice when a Walmart comes to your town is to sell everything below cost. And if you have a small town, think about smaller towns in Oklahoma or anywhere else in the country where a Walmart opens up and you've got a bunch of little stores in that town, and they come in and they undercut everybody's price in town and they're selling below cost. Now, obviously they can do that because they're making billions of dollars in all their other stores. But if you're the little grocery store in town and they come in, you're in trouble, right? There's no way you're going to compete with them. So you're out of business now, and then they can rise their prices back up. They were sued many, many times. You can look at all the lawsuits against Walmart, and for this process, the big ones that won it was the pharmaceuticals, because what's the most expensive thing in Walmart? Not televisions. And even though I talked a lot about diapers tonight, especially if you've bought diapers, you know they're very expensive. But the most expensive thing is pharmaceuticals. That's why every store has a pharmacy in it, because that's lots of money. And what they were doing when they first would come to the West Coast is they were selling prescription drugs way below any of the other competitors, even below Walgreens and CVS and those kind of places. And they got sued by their competitors, and it's lawsuits or whatever. But Walmart's made so dang much money, they don't care, right? We just pay the lawsuits. We got a bunch of lawyers. Who cares? Pay the fine and be done with it. And so we get sued for 2, 3, 5, 10 million. Big deal. I made 100 million on that. Bait and switch. This is the favorite one of the car dealers. Pick on car dealers too, because they're the favorite ones where you see the car you look up, hey, I'm looking for a Toyota Tundra or whatever, and you say, oh my gosh, they got one down there that's way cheaper than everybody in town. And you race down there and they say, oh, well, that one was just sold 5 seconds ago, but we've got one right over here that's just like it, only it's a little bit more. That's the bait and switch, right? They get you in the store on an ad, and you run down there and they don't have it, right? And now they have a similar item. In fact, some of them are so deceptive. Now, these are laws. There's laws against this. And I will say this again, coming from the West Coast, each state has different laws that's on top of the federal laws, because a lot of the ones they talk about in your book are federal laws, but there's state laws as well. Like, for example, right now with what's the thing about price gouging, right? Because now we're all sequestered and everybody's running out to get toilet paper. So what if the toilet paper's prices have gone through the roof? They've doubled or tripled. They're not supposed to do that, but it's done, right? When there's the tornado or the floods and those kinds of things and generators, the price goes up and those kind of things. It's not supposed to happen. Bait and switch is where I'm leading you on with just something that doesn't even really exist. And we've all probably seen that. It happens all the time. But how do you prove that, right? Predatory. Again, illegal, difficult to prove. Set low prices with the intent to drive competitor out of business. That's what I was talking about Walmart. They're famous for that. Now, Walmart is so big and they're everywhere, and they've drove so many people out of business that we don't think about that as much anymore. But again, I lived in the West Coast when Walmart expanded out there, and that was their tactic, was to come in and drive everybody out. Remember, you may not remember, but the Kmart was the largest retailer in the world by far, far bigger than Walmart for many, many decades. And then Walmart came in and really hammered them. And this was one of the things that they did. They would sell things below cost. Difficult to prove. Price discrimination. This happens all the time. Is not always illegal. This is discrimination. When we think of discrimination, we think, oh, you're of this race, or you're from this religion, right? Or you're disabled, and we're going to set a price that's different for you based upon those things. Well, that's illegal, but it's still done. I can tell you. I know it is because my wife is disabled. And when you go somewhere and you say, I need an accessible room in a hotel, then you might pay more money. And to me, that's discrimination. Or you got to get in a different seat. You're going to go to BOK Center and you want to watch a concert, but well, you're disabled, so you got to pay more. That's illegal. But that happens. But now, think about this one. Is this discrimination? General admission. This is ordinary people, bargain matinee, children, senior citizens. This is really discrimination. The children and the old people, I don't say old, 60s young. 60s very young. But I want the discount. I'm not 60 yet, but I'm pretty close. I can get the discount, and I want it, right? But the thing is this not discriminatory? Right? If you're not 60 and you're over 12, you pay $9.25. Well, that's discrimination in reality, but not necessarily illegal. We see this all the time. I had a class, one of them, I can't remember what I was teaching, and I think that we were having the discussion, was one of our discussion groups was on, and I think that may be the next one here, this one, price fixing. Vertical price fixing, where now this is where competitors come together, but the channel members, this vertical price fixing. So do you think that Frito-Lay sells their Doritos to Walmart cheaper than they do Reese's? Because Reese's is a relatively small chain. It may be big here, but I never heard of Reese's till I came here. Now, when you're talking about grocery stores, it's Kroger's, Safeway, and Albertsons. Those are the three big national chains, which we don't even have them here in Oklahoma, but and which I'm surprised. But nevertheless, let's say which Safeway, which most people think Safeway went out of business many years ago, because we still have Safeway stores that are being used for all kinds of things in this state. But Safeway is still the largest chain, I believe, grocery stores. Very heavy up in the Pacific Northwest. And they operate in different states under different brand names. So Safeway owns other brands that they have grocery stores operating under different names that are owned by Safeway. And the same way with, I think, Kroger is another one, which is bigger on the East Coast. Kroger has many grocery store brands, but they're huge. They're a big company. Much, much bigger than Reese's. So this is talking about, does Frito-Lay or Nabisco, I know they do, by the way, there's no doubt about it, and sell, if they're selling Nabisco, what we said, Oreos, to Walmart or Costco or Sam's Club, are we selling it to them cheaper than we are to Reese's or Quick Trip or Walgreens, say, Obviously they are. That's vertical, where'd it go? That's vertical price fixing, where this is the channel members, marketing channel. So my manufacturer is selling directly to Costco at a cheaper price than what the retailer pays. Now, I remember I had a retail store for a while. I saw this personally, and I had wholesale contracts with manufacturers to sell things. And there were certain items that I could go to Costco and buy them from Costco cheaper than what I was paying as a wholesale customer buying directly from the manufacturer. So that is a proof that's vertical price fixing. Horizontal is where competitors come together. I'm running out of time today. we need to be done. Oh, so let me just say this. Horizontal price, that's where you got two competitors come together and they collude. If you only have two people in town selling something and they get together and they say, let's do this, this could be like OnQ and Quick Trip that has the deal. We're not going into Oklahoma City and you're not coming into Tulsa, right? We've made that deal. So that means those two chains control that market, right? Now this could be, I've seen this in construction companies when I was working for the government and we were building giant buildings. Say we're going to build a brand new $50 million building at OSU Tulsa, which we did with your tax dollars. And we hire, there's only a few companies that's big enough to build the $50 million building. And so what they do is they'll get together and they'll collude on their prices.